Brian, I think we should, skip right to the chase. Everybody's got only one thing on their mind today, stocks up a whole bunch. So I'm sure you have this, when exactly will we get the 27th insurance state? We'll get the insurance capability in the 27th state.
Anytime, of course, but that is what my crystal ball says. It is a crystal ball, and it is very thorough and accurate. These are state by state. It is tough. There is the it the red tape is load bearing, is what I'm saying.
I see. All right. Well,
it's structural.
I think we've goofed around long enough. I think we really need to talk about what everybody does care about. There is something going on, something in China, something about FSD. We need to talk not so much about what happened, because I covered that this morning on the way before the Bell Show, because on the East Coast that's the only time I can do it right now. What's going on? Not what's going on in China. What are the ramifications of the fact that the Chinese have approved FSD tentatively, or sort of, or apparently?
It was so fun. Last night you saw the early market was blowing up, and I saw people saying, why? What's going on? Really? Do you not know? Because we saw that Elon arrived in China over the weekend. We saw that he was whirling and whisking about, and then we saw enhanced autopilot appears approved. Yeah. And that means FSD could be approved shortly on its heels. And the first market to open on Monday morning is in Asia. And so anybody who was trading Tesla in Asia was buying. What does this mean? They got it. Did they? Because it opened real hot. So I think people selling were reconsidering their strike prices. So what is the ramification? Well, there's about almost 2 million cars in China, and you figure even a take rate of 10% on a subscription basis, 180,000 cars. Add a couple zeros to that, you're talking real money per month. You're talking big money per year. There are positives and negatives. The positive is this is a bunch of cash. This is a bunch of opportunity. This is a bunch of training data. The negatives are it could be misused. We have seen drivers in China misuse products of all kinds. And it could, there could be a downside when the first fool does something foolish, which is on brand for fools.
You mean, but like in the short term, like the lady that sued over or jumped up and down on her car over her brakes or something like that? I forget what.
Yes. Well, yes, she said, I did hit the brakes. And Tesla finally had to hire the lawyers and say, okay, well, we've got the black box and you didn't. So stop now. So this is just, but again, it's just one part of the story. We really tried to tell people over the last few weeks what was going on. Every time Tesla gets nice and low and affordable on the stock market, there are people saying that we saw people in advance of the earnings saying, I'm going to sell my entire position and buy back in at 130, 120, under 100. My friend, do you like it or not? Do you like the stock or not? You're not going to outcompete the algorithms. They trade much faster, they trade much smarter, and they will beat you every time because they are computers playing a game that computers are good at. And humans, I mean, we can gamble. I've met lucky gamblers before, but trying to use intuition to beat an algorithm is a bad idea.
So on the details of this, I understand that the main thing they needed to get was the approval with regard to the data center. And so their partnership with Daewoo, this other company, Baidu, I forget how it's pronounced.
Baidu,
their partnership with Baidu somehow helps them with that agreement or that arrangement. So the Chinese are not afraid we're going to steal their information or something.
So the trick is we need to get the data. That's easy. We already have the cars. We need to store the data. That's easy. A data center anywhere in the world can be obtained, but then we need to train the data. And I'm not sure how you do that in China, because I'm not sure H100s can be shipped to China.
Okay.
I don't know that Tesla would be allowed to transfer their dojo chips to China. So I don't know how the training part of it works, or if there's a way to take the data and strip it of identifiable locations in a way that would work. I just don't know how that part shapes it, would work in practice. But apparently they have found a solution that both leaves China the sufficient comfort they need that their data is secure while allowing training to take place on that data. So
And then
it'll be
the other
interesting.
side, yeah, and then the other side of the coin, of course, would be whether or not the safety folks think that this is a safe product. So was there a separate understanding or agreement that the safety agencies are good with this?
So what's not to like? What data we've seen says it is safer. This is not level 4. This is enhanced autopilot. Enhanced autopilot is, by every metric I've ever seen, safer. It is a supervised system. It is just plain safer, and reasonable people would come to that conclusion. I saw a gentleman yesterday asking me, how come they said, well, what the US really needs is high-speed rail, and yet we can't get it done. And I said, high-speed rail was never going to work in California. We told you that. And they said, well, they got it solved in China and Hungary and Japan. I was great. That's because they let engineers do engineer things rather than politicians. You put politicians into an engineering equation, you get bad engineering. You get half-finished, abandoned projects that cost billions of dollars. And that's what China likes to do, is engineering first.
Right.
The politics we'll get on one page and we'll just do it. We won't get bogged down in the details. We won't add extra stops that will ruin the project. And that's what they've done, is they've let the engineers do the engineering thing. And if you just look at the numbers, it just makes sense. So that's makes it an easier sell.
So in the meantime, while China was making these decisions and Elon was flying over the world and meeting with top officials, except in the United States, there was also the release, like we heard one day that they were going to release 3.6 to the employees, and then the next day it was already being released to everybody. I haven't had a chance, quite frankly, to see any of the videos. I haven't seen one video yet because I've been busy looking at falls, falling water going over ledges and stuff. And so I haven't had a chance to look at any of the videos or really read much of the content. What have people been saying about 12.3.6?
So yesterday, I was all day at the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association Ride and Drive event, where I gave 2 presentations, and then I got back fairly late and kind of went to bed. So I haven't seen anything either. 12.3.5 was just starting to roll out, really, when we heard, no, it's 12.3.6, guys. And I've seen, I saw a poll on X last night. Those are not scientific, but it showed that quite a number of people had already gotten 12.3.6.
Wow.
I'm expecting what we saw in the last 12 dot builds, which is it's a little bit better. And if it was any worse, we would hear that. I think we can say with reasonable confidence that the days of 2 steps forward, 1 step back may be behind us, because on the 12 dot builds, everything since 12 came out, I haven't heard of even anecdotes of big regressions.
Not big, some small regressions. Chuck Cook or somebody was complaining about it being a little slower or something on 12.5, but overall, the 0.5 ones that I read about seem to be good.
Yeah. So, and I'm still on 12.3.4, and for once, I'm not complaining because it works reasonably well. Yeah, it's exciting. A theory I heard that I think has some merit is Elon went to China to meet with these regulators, with these important dignitaries, and say, look, FSD is coming, and it may be China that gets the first level 4 or 5 out. And if not, you guys could be second or third. You're going to be right at the forefront because BYD's been testing level 4, 3 or 4 since last July. Other companies are already doing it there. They've already got little robo taxis. They've already got little pilot programs. You guys know you're going to be right there. If you want to get the world on board, get us approved too, because we're in those other markets. If we're able to get it approved in China and it works, we can show it in other markets where it works, your door will be open too. This is good for everyone. And they may have jumped on that.
Okay. Well, since you mentioned the FSD word, I mean, the BYD word, so many 3-letter words, it just, you mentioned the BYD word. I've been speculating that BYD would be the one that is the first to license FSD. What are your thoughts?
No. There's 100 reasons they wouldn't. They've got their own division. They've got their own pilot program. They are way ahead of most people. And yeah, Chinese companies don't really license US things. No manufacturer on their own is likely to. Someone is likely to. Any individual one isn't. It's like someone is going to win the lottery, but it ain't going to be you or me. There's a lot of, but BYD has so much progress already with their own approach, and there's appears to be, like Tesla's, scalable. I've seen other people speculate that, but I haven't seen any reason to think it would be the case.
So the reason might be that, okay, they're doing some tests and they're getting some decent results, but if there was actually what would you call it? A step level change difference.
Sure.
I mean, let's talk about a 10 times change or 10 times better on an FSD, or even to the point of yes, your system is safer than a driver, but Tesla is demonstrably better than yours. And
Sure.
you're not likely to ever get there with the way that you're doing it.
Right. If you can see that your approach has a local maximum, you'd be wise to be looking at all your options. That's why Tesla stopped using Mobileye back in the day, is they were looking at the Mobileye approach and said, yeah, it works good for autopilot. This is not going to scale up. This will not get us from where we are to where we need to be. We need a different approach. BYD's approach appears to have enough runway, but no one knows until it's done. Whereas like with Mercedes level 3, it's very exciting level 3. You can look at it and say, this can't be jacked up to 70 miles an hour. It doesn't have the compute. This can't be used in all weather. The cameras are already failing. It's not a compute problem. It's a hardware problem. It's a data input problem. It doesn't have the correct sensor suite to do the job. I don't think BYD would look at Tesla's approach and call it better until it is, as you said, demonstrably better. That could happen next week, next month, next year, but it definitely hasn't happened today, because today, I don't think BYD would look at it and say it's definitely better.
So Elon says he needs 6 billion miles and basically $10 billion worth of compute in order to make this thing work. I don't think BYD is going in the next 10 years, 5 years, 4 years is going to have, do they have cameras on X number of cars yet?
Yes, they have cameras. What they don't have is enough cameras. They don't have the full sensor suite on every car running. If they did, they would also have the data. They don't. BYD could start adding those cameras today. Maybe they already have and we haven't seen them, but it would still take years to get the data, and the data is irreplaceable.
Yeah.
But if BYD's approach is to say, we're putting all the sensor suites in today, and we're going to start gathering that data, they make enough cars that they would get the data real quick. Well, they are one who could do it.
But real quick would be years and years.
Years. Not years and years. I think a year or two would be enough to gather the data.
Then you still need the compute. You still need the inference chip.
Oh yeah.
There's so many other parts to the story.
But we don't know what the other solutions are. We know what a solution it probably is. There are a lot of problems that we solved in really hard ways. You look at the original hoverboard. The guy invented the hoverboard, and before he could really get it to mass market, there were Chinese knockoffs. So the first thing he did was bought one and took it apart to say, look, they stole my IP. And he opened it up and found they did it a completely different way that didn't violate his IP and was better, cheaper, more efficient, more reliable. And he's like, wow, they reinvented my reinvented wheel. Well, and we don't, in the future, it's like there are today programmers who go back and code new games for the Atari 2600.
Yeah.
And they are you look at them, you go, my gosh, if that game was available then, it would, right? Because these guys have had 50 years to optimize and understand the absolute most you can squeeze out of it. There will come a day in 10 or 20 years when a startup goes from no FSD to FSD in a year using an amount of compute that today would look adorable.
Yes.
Adorable. Oh my gosh, you did it on that lowly system. But we don't know what that solution is, and it's possible that BYD or someone else will figure that out. We just can't see beyond the horizon.
What does your future, your Tesla ball, your Futurama ball tell you? We're sitting at 195, 68 at 12:06 Eastern. Are we going to break 200 today?
Anything is possible. 200 is a pretty strong mental barrier. A lot of people will have sell orders at 2, so it'll bump against 2 all day and just kind of sit there while people are trying to figure out what's really going on. So I don't know on that. That'd be
yeah. I don't either.
Well, we know because we've seen your predictions in the past, Randy.
Harsh for a Monday. I mean, I'm barely awake. All right.
It's because you're on vacation and I got to keep it real.
That's right. All right, Brian, I'm going to cut you loose after that horrible.
Yeah.
And
seems reasonable.
Maybe we'll see you again in 3 minutes, which we'll publish tomorrow. Something like that.
It works for me. I'll be here.
Thank you so much. And we will, it's really been great talking to y'all.